Alright, hello everyone, I'm Miriam. I'm on data for today and I'm going to walk you through how the role works. So one of the first things that you need to do in data is you need to locate the scanner and the printer. In clinics, that's always going to be located here. So this is our scanner and this is our printer. And this is the data laptop. So this is what the printer looks like when it's all set up. Whenever you're going to print anything, you would always plug this into the laptop and you would plug it in over here. And this is what the scanner looks like when it's set up. You plug it into your computer and you know it's on when this blue light turns on. So after your laptop, your printer, and your scanner is set up, you need to go ask reception if they need any forms to be printed from data for the clinic day to begin. Hey, reception, do you guys need any forms to be printed?
Yeah, can we get some more purple forms, please?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so now that we asked reception if they needed any forms to be printed, and they said they needed some to be printed, this is where you would locate forms. You would go to the shared drive from the managers, click on General Clinic, and then click on Forms. And on here, you'll find all the forms that you're ever going to need to print for the data shift. So if reception tells you they need anything, this is where you would go. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to open up the SharePoint drive. The way to do that is you're going to get an email from managers a few days before the clinic starts of an email that looks like this, and you're going to click on patient forms, and that's going to allow you to sign in to the SharePoint drive. Okay. Once you log into the SharePoint drive, this is what it's going to look like. For General Clinic, what you're going to do is click on the General Clinic tab and go to 2024 scanned files or whatever year it is. And then you're going to want to create a folder for that clinic day. And you're going to want to follow the format of the month, a dash, the date, and then dash the year. So now that we opened up the SharePoint drive, the next thing you want to do is locate the scanned files folder on the desktop of the data laptop. So it'll be located here. So you want to click on that. And then you want to create a folder for the clinic day that you're working. Just make sure that you name it correctly of the month, the date, and the year.
So now that everything is set up for data and you've made all the appropriate folders, we're just going to wait until we have any forms to scan and any social service referrals to look up for our patients.
Hi Data,
Hey.
So my patient is interested in clothing service and food assistance, and they also expressed that they're a first day resident and they don't have transportation, so make sure to be on the lookout for that.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
So we can see that our patients requested some food assistance and they also wanted some clothing options. So we're going to go ahead and look those up for the patient.
So now that we know the resources that our patients are requesting, let's go ahead and look those up. So one of the resources that we would use for that is this website called findhelp.org. So this is what it looks like when you first open it up. And you want to search by the zip code that is closest to our patients. Since the zip code of the Willow Clinic is 95811, that's the zip code we're going to search by so that everything is as close to the Willow Clinic as possible for our patients. So you would click search, and this is what the website is going to look like once you've searched in your zip code. One of the resources that our patient was requesting is food assistance. So the way you would find resources for that is you would go to this header of food, and you can see that we have a bunch of different things that we can choose from. We have community gardens, emergency food, food deliveries and pantries, nutrition education, etc. So let's say we go to food pantry, and on here you're going to find a bunch of different resources that we can give to our patients. So now that we're all logged on to the Find Help website and we wanted to find food assistance for our patients, let's say we're going to use the first two resources. That's at the Union Gospel and at St. Vincent de Paul in Sacramento. So you would first want to select both of these resources by these checkmarked boxes here. Once you do that, you're going to find this button at the bottom of the page that's going to say how many programs you selected. If you click on that, you're going to want to then print out the resources that you're going to give to the patient. So you click print. And then you just want to double check and make sure that all of the relevant information that you need is on the printable page. For example, like the name of the program, their method of contact, any websites, what the program is for, any eligibility requirements for the patient, how far away it is from the Willow Clinic itself, and the address, as well as their hours of operation. So we can see here that all of those are listed for both of our resources. So now we are ready to print. So there is another way that we can find social service referrals for our patients. The first one that I showed you previously was the findhelp.org website. The second one is the outreach resources list, which is a spreadsheet that will be shared with you from managers in the shared drive on Google Drive. So on here, you can see we have a bunch of different social service referrals that we give out to our patients. It's going to have the reference number on the left-hand column, and that's just going to refer to the bottom of the spreadsheet of what resource you're looking for in particular, how many resources are going to be available for the social service that you're looking for. So let's say like the second social service that our patient was interested in was clothing. So you would click on clothing, click on the number 4 hyperlink, and then from there, you can scroll through and see we have lots of different resources to give to our patients in terms of clothing. And it has everything listed from what the organization's name is, their program, availability, meaning their hours of operation, a brief description of what the program is and what they do. And then we also have a more detailed explanation and list, kind of just elaborating on the previous column of the basic descriptions that are offered. We also have a column stating if the resource is free or not, and any eligibility requirements that the patient would have to meet, if the resource is accommodating to those who speak not only English, but maybe also Spanish or other different languages. If there's an application process that is required for the social service, it's very important to make sure that you check that and explain to the patient if there is an application process, what that looks like, and kind of walk them through how to do it. Then we also have the address and the miles from the Willow Clinic, which is located at First Steps, just to give you a rough gauge of how far away it is. If your patient doesn't have access to a car or transportation, then you would know you would need to give them a bus pass. The organization's website, their phone numbers, and their email addresses as methods of contact. And then we also just have a miscellaneous notes column. If you feel the need to put anything in there or anything new that you find out about the program, feel free to put it in this notes column here. So some of the resources that we have, including clothing, actually have flyers, kind of just summarizing what the resources are so that you don't have to write out every single one. So if you click on the flyer and you click on the Google Drive link, you can see that we have 2 different flyers for clothing. One is going to actually show you the resources available. It's going to look like this. And then the second flyer we have, which is really important, is going to show all of the addresses for every single one of those resources and their relation in Sacramento, where they are from each other, so that the patient knows just a rough gauge of where everything is located from them. So if your resource has these flyers available, I would definitely print those out and give those to your patients. Okay, so once you've printed out your resources, this is what it's going to look like. So one of the things I like to do when you've printed out your resources is to highlight the name and the callback number for the resource. So once you've highlighted it, this is what it's going to look like. And this is what the clothing resource looks like. And these are the map directions and the addresses for all of the clothing resources.
Hi, Data. Hi. So these are all the forms that I need to scan and put it into the patient chart.
Okay, sounds good. And then I also looked up all of the social service referrals for your patient. So they both wanted both clothing and food assistance. So the first page is going to be the food assistance programs that I found that are in the local area. And then the second page is going to be all of the clothing options that I found. And the last one is going to be their addresses and where they're all located.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to relay this to our patient.
Okay, sounds good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so now that intake gave us all of the patient forms, we're going to go ahead and scan them. Okay, so the first form that we have to scan is the patient's intake form. So the way that you're gonna do that is you're gonna go to the scanner and there's gonna be a sticker on it that says you place the paper head first and face down. So what that means is that this is like the head of the paper. You flip this upside down and you're gonna place it into the scanner like so. Make sure that it's aligned properly in between these two black edges. Once it's aligned correctly, you would press this blue button that says scan. Then make sure it just comes out in a straight line so that the scanner can do what it's supposed to do. And that's how you scan it.
So now that the intake form has been scanned, this is what it's going to look like when you're done scanning anything. So you can kind of just scroll through to make sure. And then the way that you're always going to name your documents is you're going to put in your patient's last name. So you would do that, comma, their first name, so John. And then you're going to do underscore and type in the name of the document itself. So we know this is the intake form. And then you're going to want to put in the date that the clinic was held. So this clinic was held on 4/14/2024. And then you want to make sure that you save this file in the correct place on the desktop. So if you remember earlier, we made a folder on the desktop for today's clinic on the scanned files folder. So you'll click this drop-down menu and you would find the folder for your specific clinic day and then save it on there. So now we're going to save the file in the appropriate folder on scanned files. So you would click browse, you would go to scanned files, and then you would find your folder that you made earlier in the shift. So we're going to save it into our folder and you would click select folder and now your file is saved. So when your files are done being scanned, I just like to make sure and double check that it does get saved into the correct folder just to be safe. So what you would do is you would open up your files, go to scanned files from the desktop, and then go to your correct folder that you made. So this is today, and we can see that the intake form did get saved correctly, so we know that the form is there. So the next thing that we have to do is that we have to upload any documents that we just scanned into the patient's chart on Practice Fusion. So the way you can look up a patient's chart is if you click chart and you can search up the patient by their PRN. So for example, this patient's PRN is 5001. If you want to upload any documents into their files, you would click on the Documents tab, click on Upload, and then you would want to find your scanned files that we did earlier, and then go to the folder that you made earlier in the day, click on the file that you want to upload, and this is what it's going to look like when you're going to try to upload to Practice Fusion. So I just like to make sure that everything is right side up and that everything is filled out appropriately. So now we have to fill out everything that's on the right hand side here. It already auto-populates the patient name because we're in their chart, and you want to keep the document name the same as well. For document type, you want to choose the appropriate name for whatever document you're uploading. So for example, this is the patient's intake form. So you would want to scroll down and find intake and click on that. And then make sure this is the appropriate date of the clinic. Make sure that's all correct. And then you can click save. And then you can see that you have successfully uploaded your document to the patient's Practice Fusion portal. Okay, so in addition to uploading documents on Practice Fusion, we also have to upload all patient documents into the SharePoint drive. So you can see that this is the folder that we made earlier in the clinic day. So in order to upload onto SharePoint, you would click on Upload, Files, and you would want to select the scanned files folder that's on the data laptop desktop that you made earlier. So since we already scanned the file earlier from ScanSnap, this is the file that we scanned earlier. So you would click on that and you can now see that the file is available in SharePoint. Okay, so after uploading any documents from the patient's encounter in clinic, the next thing that you want to do is you want to go to their portal on Practice Fusion. And the first thing you're going to want to do is input any vitals that were taken. So the way you would get to the vitals page is you click on Vitals on the Summary tab. and you would want to input any of the patient's vitals from that day. The way you're going to find the vitals is from the intake form that the intake volunteer is going to give you when the vitals have been taken for the patient. So for example, we can put in the patient's height, and then you would click Create Encounter, and then you would put in any other vitals that were taken in the day as well. So on the intake form, their blood pressure was 116/72. Their temperature was 98.2. Their pulse was 79. Their respiratory rate was 16. Oxygen saturation 99. And then you would click Save, and that's how you save the vitals from the encounter of that day. It'll have the encounter day and the time at which you inputted vitals. After you've inputted the vitals for the patient, you also then want to input their BHT screening scores. So that's going to be located on the BHT form that the patient fills out, and it's one of the forms that the intake volunteer is going to give to you as well. So it's the same exact process as putting in vitals. You would click this plus sign and then put in the scores that were on the form. So for this example, the PHQ question 2 was 0, and then you have to just click other in order for you to be able to create new results. And the PHQ9 question 9 was also 0. And then the GAD7 score ended up being 9. Then you would click Save. And then it just shows the date that you inputted the vitals on and the BHT scores and the time at which it happened. The next thing you want to do is you want to go to the data protocol. It's going to be in the shared drive with you, so you can always access it. And you want to scroll all the way to where it says the BHT Qualtrics form. You're going to have a hyperlink here, and it's really important that you make sure just to fill out the BHT forms that the patient filled out, but on the electronic form, so we have a copy of it for our Mind and Wellness Committee. So you would click on the hyperlink, you would click the next arrow, and on the protocol, it will say, always assume that the patient's housing and insurance has changed. So you can see that's the first question that is on the form. So you would click yes. And then you would fill out all of the information that we were given from our patient. So you would put in their name, what their housing status is, so we know that they live at First Steps. You would put in any insurance that was listed on their intake form, click the next arrow. And then these are the exact same questions that are on the BHT form. You're just filling it out in an electronic copy. So you would just put what the patient answered. And sometimes it'll take you to complete the entire survey if the first two questions were not 0. And then when you're done with the survey, this is what it's going to look like.
So all the forms that we get at the end of the day are gonna have to be shredded for HIPAA purposes. So you would locate the shredder here.